Donald Trump's reckless action cut off funding to law enforcement, farmers, schools, childcare, veterans, and health care. While he was out golfing, he threw the country into crisis. This is not bold. It's not leadership. It's stupid, buffoonish, childish of exactly what they did. Most folks were up all night last night as we dealt with this being thrown on there with no guidance. I know you have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions because not one damn person thought this through. I'm hearing within the last few minutes, oh, no, the Medicare thing was just a fluke. It's unrelated to this. That is there is absolutely no way they didn't know exactly what they were doing.
Minnesota Governor and Democratic Vice Presidential nominee Tim Walz speaking this afternoon in Minnesota in response to the Trump White House's sudden, inexplicable freeze on all federal funding. Governor Walz and state officials were sent scrambling overnight to try to deal with the expected impact of roughly $2 billion in federal funding for ongoing programs being yanked instantly and with no warning. Today, after a huge pushback across the country, the Trump administration tried to take some of it back and say they hadn't meant it. Then the freeze overall was put on hold by a federal judge. Joining us now exclusively for his first interview since the presidential election is Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Governor Walz, it's really nice to see you. Thank you for making time to be here.
Yeah, it's good to be back with you, Rachel. And great first segment, terrifying but accurate. You know what they're after, and it's not that we should be surprised by this. They laid it out in Project 2025, so here we are.
Well, actually, let me ask you about that on this point. A lot of people have been today and the last few days crediting your campaign and crediting all the reporting during the campaign that identified Project 2025 as essentially what looked like a blueprint for the incoming Trump administration to dismantle the American government. They denied it. They said they had nothing to do with it, said they'd never heard of it. Does it seem to you like that's actually what they're doing?
Oh, it is. It doesn't seem it is. We took it seriously, and I can tell your viewers tonight, governors and attorney generals took this seriously, and there was a lot of planning. There's a lot of good folks, smart folks, organizations. You talked about some of them that were out there preparing for this. But there's only so much planning you can do because of the impact it makes. And just today I was at a Head Start program. What we have to do is we have to personalize this down to this matters to each person, because Republicans always want to talk about cutting government. That's in theoretically. They never want to be specific because we know that these programs are incredibly popular. But I can tell folks we were preparing for it. They wrote it out. If you go back and look at that now, you'll see this go step by step. And I would say, Rachel, that it was cruel. They planned it. Yes, it was somewhat buffoonish, but I'm not quite certain that we're reading that right. I think this is a case of that this is a trial balloon to see how much tolerance we had and what we pull back. I make this analogy. It's like you caught someone and they stole everything out of your house. You caught them and you told them to put it back. And when you start looking, some of it's still gone. What they're going to see is, oh, they didn't raise a stink about meteorologists or our folks who are monitoring PFAS in our water, so let's just go on with that. Or people that we don't think have a voice that we want to marginalize and demonize. So they were going to get this. And and I heard Chris on his program talking with Jamie Raskin, who is the smartest person you'll find in Congress. They're never going to bring this the legal way because no Republican will vote for this. And the deafening silence of Republican governors, these are my colleagues. Some of them are my friends, but shame on you. You know what this is doing. And look, I come from a wealthy state that has the lowest childhood poverty rates, and we have a strong safety net. I guarantee you these Republican states would pay the price far more than us, and they're just silent on it. So we're going to need some courage. This is a long fight. This is ideologically everything you laid out. They want to destroy the federal government, this buyout of employees, because now they threaten them. It's here. The game is here. We knew it was coming. I don't know what people thought, that we were just speaking, that this wasn't going to happen. Donald Trump said, oh, I never heard of him. And now you got this guy Vogt, that's at the heart of it. So, look, it's on. I'm glad you said that. Governors are out there. The resistance is strong. You felt it. Americans, lo and behold, like democracy and feeding their children. So they're going to fight for these things. But here's what there's a court order. Who believes Donald Trump's going to care what the courts say? Who believes he's not going to do this? We're still finding glitches in our things. We're trying to access these systems again. They're not functioning correctly. And the ludicrousness, the insult to the American public to tell us that for the first time, it was just a coincidence that the Medicaid reimbursement site glitched at the same time they froze all these programs. We have to put an end to that. We have to just say, no, it's not enough. And I got to tell you, I'm sending it out to those Republican governors. We sat side by side. Governors we have to deliver. We have to make sure that the water runs, that things are happening, and they're getting hammered just as much as we are.
What do you think? America's listening to you right now, thinking about what might have been had you been vice president instead of J.D. Vance, what might have been had Kamala Harris been the president right now instead of Donald Trump. People hearing you talking about the pushback and the fight and that mattering. What does that mean in practical terms? The average person watching you right now who agrees that this needs a big pushback, what should they do?
Yeah, and you know that overused term, the frog in the boiling water, we've been in the damn pot way too long. I think it is speaking up. It's thinking about your neighbors. It's writing and putting those members of Congress. Look, there is no spine amongst those folks, but this is real. This is, they're talking about defunding the police, things that they, puff their chests up and say they're good with, making the case. And I would let, to the voters, I'm with this too. Everybody's fatigued. Trust me, I get it. It was pure hell, and the disappointment and the frustration. And I'm, soul searching. What could we have done to make the case? Because we knew this was coming. We knew that the implications, and they're throwing so much at us that we're fatigued. We spent 3 days, having them trying to debate that President Musk gave a Nazi salute. Of course he did. But that is a distraction from what I think you said it. This is game on stuff right here. And I am worried with these federal employees because, look, they're in a tough spot. That some of these folks, especially those that are doing good work around environmental concerns, around justice for people, around criminal justice reform, all of the things that make our society better, those folks are in there, and they're making, they put out tweets from the president's fail son who threatens people, like, we're coming for you. You think this is bad or whatever. So I would tell people, stay focused. Don't take the bait on the distractions. Surround yourself with people who understand this and recognize the things they went after today are basically a big chunk of what society does. And people like to have clean water and hospitals and safety and roads and airports, all the things they're going after. And you summed it up. There's societies that function like this, where the rich and the oligarchs do everything, and there's some fabulously wealthy people who are are above the law, and the rest of us are here. And I think we have to find that voice. We have to push back. We have to be organized. We do have to use the courts, but I just want to caution everyone. I don't know what tends us to believe that Donald Trump cares what the courts say. I think there needs to be more to that. And I think it is taking it to the individual people. Show what each of these programs does and what it means to people's lives.
Yeah, no matter what people motivated anybody's vote, if you didn't think you were voting to cut firefighting, if you didn't think you were voting to cut meat inspections, if you didn't think you were voting to cut air traffic control, well, it's all becoming very, very clear right now. Sir,
Yep.
Please come back anytime. It's nice to see you, and it's an honor to have you here with us tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel.